Okay, everyone, it's Irene again. I'm going to do another question. She asks, can you please elaborate on how much babies should cry? I understand there are differences between the Eastern world and Western world. Yes, there are. I'm trying to manage my expectations. In a perfect environment, how much should a baby cry? Great question. So I'm going to start with a story. So ages ago, I was in a drugstore, and it was the winter. And it was so cold outside, like snowing cold, freezing cold. But inside this store, it was so hot. The heat was just blasting. And I'll never forget, I went to the end of an aisle, and it was by where the pharmacy was, and I could hear this baby wailing, and the baby was in a stroller, a pram. The mom was really mad at the baby because the baby was crying. And it was very clear that mom was not in a good headspace. This was in a part of Vancouver that is known for, one might say, more homelessness, more drug addiction, which sadly is a big portion of downtown Vancouver. And of course, as a innocent passerby, I really can't do anything, but I looked at the baby, and the poor thing was so red, just overheating, because not only did they have their clothes on, they had a hat, a toque on, mitts, a jacket, and the blanket on them in this baby stroller. And so remember, I just said it was really cold outside, but really warm inside. So it was very clear to me that this baby was in heat distress. They were hot, not to mention fluorescent lights overhead, all of the chemicals and scents inside of this drugstore, which I even can't handle. I mean, I don't get dysregulated with them, but I can tell that there are chemicals and fragrances and dyes, and the candy aisle is terrible. So all those toxins are coming into that little system. But my sense was baby was just overheating. But the attunement, there was no attunement. There was no attunement with the mother to go, oh, little one is warm, I better remove some clothing. And so the question is, how much should a baby cry? I'm going to go to another story. So I have been in a lot of places that would be considered not the West. My mother's from the Philippines. I wasn't adopted. She's my biological mother, and I just don't look very brown. But when I'm in the Philippines, and when I have been in the Philippines, you do not hear babies wailing like that. Now, of course, you also don't have freezing cold temperatures going into warm temperatures, typically. So when you're in the villages, and I've been around a lot of babies because a lot of my mother's nieces and nephews have babies, and the babies are just around, they're just hanging out. And they might cry a little bit, but I can't think of a time where I saw one of my cousins crying. Now, this is different than a kid falling and scraping their knee and crying because it hurts. This is infant crying. And so when an infant cries, to go to this question, how much should a baby cry? They should cry just enough to get attention to the parent so that the parent can, or the caregiver or whomever, can hear that tone, that cry, and know she's hungry, he's cold. Oh, look at the face, super red. They are overheating. Blue in the face, oh wow, baby's cold. Or blue in the face, baby's choking on something. But this wailing, we would call it colicky, which again does not happen in more tribal, rural, attuned societies. It just doesn't happen. Babies are loose and limp and they can be handled without freaking out. So it might seem very strange for us in the West to consider that a baby really shouldn't cry very much. But if we are securely attached to them, if we're listening to them, if we're listening to ourselves. So here's another thing. If a little one can sense deep fear in the adults, it doesn't have to be the parent, that will upset them. And you can bounce them and feed them and soothe them with sounds and all the things. But if there is fear and disagreement amongst, say, a couple, or in the case of Gabor Mate's story, for those of you that have followed him, he tells the story of when he was an infant during the Second World War, and his mother went to the pediatrician and said, doctor, my little Gabby, he can't stop crying. What is wrong with him? And of course the mother loves the little one, and I'm going to assume he was getting food, and the doctor said, I'm not sure if he called her Mrs. Mate, but, all our Jewish babies are crying right now. And of course it was Europe, Second World War, Holocaust going on. There was so much fear in the field and real bad stuff happening that level of survival stress was just infused in all of these infants. And so again, if there's that level of stress, fear, survival, unsafety, it's really unsafety. And it can be, you could be in a home, nothing is going on. There's hot water, there's temperature control, there's tons of money in the bank, mama's eating the perfect organic foods. But if she is in a state of panic or fear, or she's not in a good relationship, or something bad is occurring that is more mental, psychological, it's going to impact her physiology. And her physiology is going to impact baby's physiology. And baby is going to sense that, because when we are that young, we are psychically attuned to those around us. We will freak out, we will cry, or of course, we will shut down. And so what often occurs over time is that when we are in a situation that tends to be more unsafe and we realize we just can't get out, we will go into this, what we would call freeze response, and potentially collapse. And unfortunately for infants, collapse can lead to death, because the system just slows down so much. So to go back to this question, can you elaborate on how much babies should cry? They should only cry to the degree that they are saying, hey, I need something. This is what I need. Of course, they don't say that. The parent, the caregiver, the mother must attune to baby to go, this is what baby needs. Baby gets what baby needs, baby stops crying. Now, the caveat to this, and we did a parenting alumni call with my Smart Body, Smart Mind moms back in February. We had more than one mother say, it wasn't until I got my own regulation on board that I was able to actually attune, be with, and really listen to my child. And in these mothers' cases, the kids were older. They were in their later childhood years, teenage years. And one mother in particular I'm thinking about, her name is Michelle. And we're going to actually release this clip, but it's all on my YouTube channel under the Parenting Alumni Call. I believe it was February 16th that happened of the year 2024, this year. She said, I had my kid later in life. Kid was wanted. I did all the things, attachment parenting, co-sleeping, feeding on demand, everything that you could possibly try to mimic from more tribal culture. But it didn't work, because she, as she called it, anxiety, as we know, it's survival stress. She was doing these practices from a state of survival stress. that doesn't work. So this is the conundrum so many are in right now in the West. They intellectually know, I need to co-sleep, I need to breastfeed, I need to get rid of all the toxins, I need to have a home birth. But if we are fueled with survival stress while doing those, and it can be unconscious survival stress, because for many moms, they are in such a deep, deep functional freeze, they don't even know that they have unresolved fight flight energy in them, but that little baby will know. And this is another reason why a lot of births are difficult, because there's tension in the mother's body, there's tension in the pelvis, there's tension in all of the lines that need to be fully open to let said human baby out in a natural way with very little harm. Doesn't mean it won't be painful, but the body, the female body, is designed to do this. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't designed perfectly. But what we've messed up, and I say this, for not just me, but everyone, like I often say that it's nobody's fault and it's everyone's fault. We've industrialized so much, we've disconnected from our bodies, and we've tried to apply a system, a way of thinking, a way of maneuvering and practicing techniques and tools around childbirth and child rearing, and because of that, it's bleached the organic nature out of the process. So we intellectually know what we're supposed to do, but it's not coming from our organic systems. I always go back to the wild. The animals in the wild are not reading parenting books. They're not practicing attachment parenting. They're just practicing attunement, safety, co-regulation, and teaching to their young. And that is what creates the good bond, the health of the nervous system, and then all the things that flood out after that. So that is my answer to this question. In a perfect environment, how much should a baby cry? Not very much, because we are meant to attune to those sounds and work with them and connect and offer what is needed in the moment. I hope that answers that question.